The Conjuring 2. Now, this of course will be my spoiler-free review, so you guys won't have to worry about any sort of, plot developments or anything like that in this. I'm going to do a spoiler discussion for this video, so I'm going to keep it super, super vague, because with it being a horror movie, I don't want to describe like any of the scares or anything like that, because it's kind of the bread and butter of the movie, so I don't really want to get too much into that, but plain and simple, this was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I liked the first one, so I was excited to see this one. I'm not sure who did the Annabelle movie, which was like a prequel to The Conjuring, but they kind of bounced back from that one. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it was James Wan that directed that one as well, and same writers or whatever, but I enjoyed the first one. Annabelle got really crappy reviews, so I never ended up seeing it, and I was like, oh, that's really disappointing, because I loved the trailer for that, and then I was like, okay, well, I like the first Conjuring, but Annabelle did really bad, so I was a little cautious. I was still going to go see it. I was excited to see it, because I was still like, I like the first one, so, plus, it goes back to kind of real life stories, because the first movie, both these movies are based off of real stories, and I was like, maybe that was the issue. The Annabelle thing was just made up, and it wasn't taken from an actual case file, and so that's why it didn't work so well. So maybe that's just what it is, because when I watched this movie, I was like, yeah, this one's definitely fine to me, and I heard the reviews, a couple of reviews said it was good before I went to see it, so I was like, apparently it's just they need it from the real case files of, I believe it's Ed and Lorraine are their names. So, it's definitely a fun movie. I think if I had to choose, it's been a while since I've seen the first one, because I was trying to remember like a bunch of the scary moments and stuff, and I'm like, I was trying to figure out like which one do I like more as I was watching the second one, because I wanted to, make a fair comparison. And I really think the scares were definitely better in this one. I mean, that, oddly enough, even in a horror movie, that's not it, but the scares I thought were really well done, and that's kind of one of the things I'll just leave vague for you guys to check out. But I think just the way it happened, like, it's a different sort of ghost story than it was in the first one as well, so that was cool. It wasn't just the same sort of ghost story, but it was still, still a haunting sort of deal, but it was slightly different than the first one, so I thought that was cool. The case is apparently insanely famous, but based on where you might live, you wouldn't know about it. So I thought that was cool, and it's related to something else that a lot of people in my area would know about, and that's, I don't want to even get too specific in that. It's a very minor thing. It doesn't even matter if I talk about that, but just to leave it open, because I didn't know what the case was for this movie, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's something I'd never heard of before, but it is insanely famous. But once you see the movie, if you've never heard of it before, you'd be like, oh, well, that explains why. So I thought that was kind of cool, and it has a certain relation to something that most people in my area do know about. So I thought that was really cool, and I was like, oh, it was just very interesting. It's such a famous thing, where it was like, oh, it's just, I never knew about that one. Plus, it's a ghost story, so after a certain amount of time, because this stuff takes place, I think the first one was late 60s, this one's early 70s, or something like that. They don't specify, but they kind of show stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure it was 60s, and then this one's 70s. But it was really cool. So, over time, you lose a lot of stuff anyway, but it was really fun. The scares I thought were really good. We basically, we have these characters, and they go straight into it. Like, they have, like, this most minute introduction to the new family that they're helping out. We get to know who they are. We get to know the parents and the kids as well. And it was just crazy. I was like, it goes right into it. We get the little bit of stuff with Ed and Lorraine. It's fairly simple, because with it being the sequel, they don't really have to go too much into their introduction. So if you haven't seen the first one, you don't really need to see it, because there's not much to it. They still have enough of an introduction where it's like, okay, this is based off of real people, and this is based off a real story. Basically, that's all you need to know about the movie. You don't need to know Ed and Lorraine's history or anything like that. Basically, everything that's kind of explained in the first movie is done again in this movie, but it's not done in a bad way, because it would be stupid if it wasn't done again. If you've seen the first movie, you know why. So when you watch this one, it's like, okay, it's similar stuff with the two of them, but it should be, because that's what they do, and those are their characters, so it makes sense that they would remain the same, because they were actual people. So you could see this without seeing the first one. I'd recommend seeing the first one, just because I think the first one's still good, so just see the first one and then see this one. But I like that. I was like, okay, if you never, for whatever reason, you just were like, screw it, I'll just go see the second one first. it's still fine. You still get everything you need from this movie. It's like, it's not explained in complete detail like the first one, but it's not like rocket science, so it doesn't take a deep explanation to figure it out. It's like, okay, this is how, they operate as a duo, and this is what each of them kind of brings to the table. So I was like, all right, that's, just for people that would be new to it, if they skipped over the first one, it still works. So I was like, that's kind of cool, just kind of the way it played out. But definitely enjoyed the scares. I think the characters were all well done, and of course with it being based off a real story, they had a lot to pull from. And they kind of have this thing, just like in the first movie, where they show the actual family and stuff at the end, like in the end credits, they show pictures and they have like a recording that plays. And I thought that was really cool. And that's, like I said, that's a minor thing that like really is super irrelevant. It has nothing to do. It won't do anything with the movie. It's just there. But that was really cool. And they got some people, some of the actors, specifically one guy, he looked almost exactly like the guy from the actual picture. I was like, holy crap, they made him look exactly like the actual dude from the picture. So I thought that was kind of funny. But it was a really fun movie. Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought the scares were cooler. I think, just like some of the stuff they show in the trailer, I feel kind of shows off some of the simpler side of things, but it gets really crazy with the way they do stuff. And that's why, I don't want to get into that until I do my spoiler video, but it was really fun. I highly recommend it. If you get scared at stuff, it'll scare you. My girlfriend, I'm surprised she even saw the movie as much as she was like, digging into my arm. So she enjoyed it. She thought it was pretty fun. But I enjoyed myself. I thought it was really good. There's like one specific thing, like she felt it was probably worse than I did. It was like one specific thing that they did with one of the scares. And it was just visually, it kind of takes you out of it. And it was just because it's a bit too CG-like. And it was like, it just kind of throws you off a little bit. It was still very creepy and it was well done. But it was like, it was something that they did in CG where personally, I thought they could have just used an actual person. And there's like some stuff like they couldn't have done. Like there's one, like the introduction of this like horror moment. The introduction they couldn't have done with an actual person because it had to be CG for it. But after that, I was like, they could have found a person to do this and just done makeup. That probably would have, I don't see how that would have taken longer than the CG that they used. But it was like, just how they have certain images and stuff when people move and stuff like that. It's like, like one specific character in the whole movie. I was like, that could have just been an actual person. I personally felt like, maybe not as creepy, but I think it still would have been more effective because it really takes you out of it because the movie doesn't really use CG. And the first one I don't think used any, I'm sure there was some CG in there because they, do like spirit stuff. So I'm sure there's some CG in there, of course, but it's not like, this is definitely not real right now. So that was like the one thing. Personally, I thought it was still cool. My girlfriend thought it was just a little overdone because it was, in general, she thought it was just like a little too much. I thought it was cool. I was like, it just takes me out of it because it looks CG. Like it was good CG, but it was still like, it was like that weird pseudo-realistic CG. It's like, it's kind of there, but it's CG because everything else is real around it. That was the only thing that bugged me. And that was still like nothing because I was like, this still is really cool though. Like, it's still a really creepy thing. I just personally kind of thought it would have been cooler if they just used a person because then it wouldn't have taken me out of it a little bit for that second. But it was still fine. I still certainly love the movie. I don't know if they're going to do a third one or not, but I'd certainly be curious because I think these movies are actually pretty fun. If they made a franchise out of it and they actually continue to be pretty good, I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't mind seeing it. It wouldn't be like, Saw where it's just torture porn the whole time and not much of a story. So I don't know if they're going to continue. This one kind of ends like the first one, really. It's kind of just like, it's done and there could be a sequel because I never thought there was going to be a sequel, to be totally honest. And then poof, here it is. So they might do a third one, they might not. They have, it's based on true stories, so they could continue it if they wanted to. But I say this was definitely a really fun sequel. I really enjoyed it. You could see this one, like I said, you could easily see this without seeing the first one because there are some ties because it's actually based on real people. So there are clear connections like, oh, this is what they do and what they have been doing and stuff like that since the first movie. And even that, they don't specify like this is stuff from the first movie. There's like one thing in the entire film where if you see it, you'd be like, oh, that's directly linked to the very first movie, and that's it. That's the only thing, and it's not even talked about. It's just shown. It's like, oh, that's from the first movie, and you know that if you saw it. But overall, it was a really great movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. If you have, I would love to know what you guys thought about it. Like I said, I'm going to do a spoiler video, so if you want to keep it vague, you can, comment down below or put spoiler tags, or you can just wait until I do the spoiler video so you can just go all out and talk about it. But highly recommend it. Very good horror movie. Personally, I would like to see them do a third one because I think they're good. I can't really think of any other horror movies that I've seen lately that I really enjoyed as much as The Conjuring. I haven't really seen any. I never saw The Boy, which I am curious to see, and I heard that was kind of mediocre. So it's like, I haven't heard of any like really great horror movies. There is that one German movie with the two boys. I still haven't seen that yet, but I haven't really heard too much lately about any like great horror movies outside of some of the foreign stuff. So as far as American-made horror movies, definitely a great sequel. Highly recommend it. Like I said, though, if you guys want to talk about it, you can put your comments down in the comment section below, or just wait until I do the spoiler video. But either way, I would like to know, at least vaguely or whatever. I would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.